this is my question. You know, during the 2016 election, it was before I was with Jimmy, and or at least, well, I was on the show occasionally, but I wasn't with Jimmy on a full-time basis. But so I was touring a lot of colleges, and you know, I saw the same thing. Judah Friedlander, who was also touring a lot of colleges at the time, he saw the same thing. I don't know anybody that can't vouch for this. On college campuses, we saw about 95% excitement for Bernie. A little bit of excitement for Jill Stein. There's actually a lot of Greens on college campuses. There's a lot of young Greens these days. And then, you know, maybe a handful of people that were kind of into Trump, maybe because their parents were, maybe because they come from money, whatever the reason may be. I did not meet one college student, not one, excited about Hillary Clinton. DSA chapters are kind of thriving. So my question is, do you have any kind of ground game in that world, in the college world, to kind of motivate these young people? I mean, more and more young people, as you know, and you probably have better statistics off the top of your head than I do, more and more young people, they're not identifying with the Democratic Party. They're identifying as independent. On the same note, they're very left-leaning. And I think what Parkland has showed us, they're very motivated and they're very mobilized. When people shit on this young generation, I think that is so grossly misguided. Because I think, you know, and I know we're around the same age, Nick. I know that we were very politically charged because of Iraq. And then I think because we had this smooth-talking guy in the White House for 8 years, people kind of got a little tired. And maybe generally, of course, everybody's different, but generally, maybe weren't quite as engaged. And now I think people are hyper awake. What are your thoughts on that?
I think so too. I'll share some of those statistics that you mentioned first. And so 71% of millennials are calling for a major new party. During the election of 2016, it was 91% of people under 29 who wanted a major third party alternative. And so that's almost unanimous. And the younger you get, the more progressive that you are and the more hostile you are towards the two parties. And so those are polls of millennials. But now Generation Z is beginning to vote. You know, those are the Parkland survivors. And they are even more hostile towards the Democratic and Republican parties. And that is the future. And another thing that shows also, another thing that's very telling is that millennials and Generation Z favor socialism over capitalism. And the same trend holds. The younger you get, the more you favor socialism over capitalism. And so that really is that is the direction. You know, there is the makings of a new society in younger generations now. And the tension that we see is over what younger generations want and what older generations as well, who've turned against the political establishment, this economy, versus the established entrenched institutions and centers of power. It's that tension, you know, over this tremendous mismatch over what people are looking for, particularly young people, and power institutions right now, particularly electorally. So what we need to do personally, you know, as MPP is, yes, you know, we are establishing chapters on campus, like on South Florida. In South Florida, we've built a couple now. I think we have a long way to go. You know,
why not coalesce with the DSA in this regard? Yeah. I mean, I know like the DSA, we share a lot of the same principles. They're really connecting on college campuses. I think it's because mainly it's a catchy title, the Democratic Socialists of America. People associate that with Bernie. They kind of go to it. There's some DSA members that are winning seats locally, which is a good thing. Why not kind of coalesce with them on the ground?
Well, we are. So in DSA in particular, DSA for a long time was an organization kind of like PDA, DFA, in that it was very much in the Democratic Party's orbit for a long time. But it has, in the past couple of years, received this tremendous infusion of young energy. You know, DSA's average age used to be like 65, you know, until a couple of years ago. Now it's like 30, you know, now it's all young people. And so those young people hold a different vision of where we should go than a lot of the older folks and the folks who've been inside DSA for a long time. And so I think that's the dynamic at DSA. They are much more in favor of, you know, radical strategies, radical politics. And so there is we are working with a caucus inside DSA, the DSA Refoundation Caucus, which was founded last year. And the aim of that caucus is specifically for DSA to turn to independent politics, to get out of the Democratic Party's orbit, and to instead now begin supporting independent candidates and launch its own party. Not as DSA alone, but to work in collaboration with other groups to do that on the independent left. And so that's exactly what we're doing. You know, that's our mission, and we're working with them to encourage that. And so that is kind of part of the process is, you know, even within these organizations, DSA, Our Revolution, you know, it's kind of easy and tempting to maybe try to classify them as monoliths. Like, oh, that one's totally in the Democrats, that one's, you know, totally in independent politics. But within each of those organizations, there's a struggle happening there too, that playing out, you know, where some of the staff, and this includes Our Revolution, some of the staff, you know, would prefer an independent direction. You know, some of the board would prefer an independent direction. And so that is playing out in DSA as well, a number of these organizations. And I think that's where we, as the Movement for a People's Party, as the organization that is solidly there, that is encouraging the members, you know, and the leadership of those organizations to say, you know, yes, it's time. Let's go with the people. It's not, you know, we're here racking our heads about how is it that we turn out young people? How is it that we that we inspire, you know, people of color to come out and to vote? How is it that we revive these horrible turnout rates in the United States? And it's really, what we're saying is that it's not rocket science. It's not as complicated as some Democrats and some progressives have made it out to be. Because working people are telling us what they want. They want an independent alternative. They want independent politics. You know, so there is that inexorable move there.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. That was a clip from Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? That means I log on to a stream and people tweet me articles over on Twitter at Ron Placone, or they use our Reddit subsection, which is just Get Your News On with Ron over on Reddit. And that's how we build the show. I'm seeing all these articles for the first time. We are literally getting our news on together. Follow me on Twitter at Ron Placone so you can participate. And this show streams live every Tuesday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please do tune in. If you want to support this show, you can do so over on patreon.com/Ron Placone, where for as low as $1 a month, you get access to exclusive podcasts every week, exclusive videos, free tickets to shows when I'm performing in your town, and more for as low as $1 a month. Please do consider it. Thank you so much for your support. This has been Get Your News On with Ron.